I'm Angel Lee, and today I'd like to talk to you about banning firearms. So, there's an average of one school shooting per week, or is there? In an article by USA Today, it stated that most of these facts about school shootings have been misconstrued and have been manipulated to fit the agendas of the mass media and of the left. It actually states that if you take into consideration all of the school shootings that claim to have happened, they also are including firearms that were accidentally discharged, suicides on school grounds, people who have accidentally discharged the firearms near school grounds. So these facts are not at all true. We can change the stigma of personal firearm ownership by educating people into learning how to handle guns and learning about gun safety and what gun ownership actually means. Banning firearms is not the solution to this problem. The Second Amendment in the Constitution of the United States of America actually states that it's the right of people to keep and bear arms, meaning our founding fathers, when they founded this country, actually believed that it was so important that we, a free people, be able to keep and bear arms that they actually put that into the Constitution of the United States. We need to recognize there are legitimate reasons for owning a firearm, that it's not just a fun thing. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around firearm ownership, and some of those need to be addressed. So people who haven't ever needed a firearm, I don't think understand just how important it is to be able to protect yourself. As a single mom of two girls who lives in a neighborhood with her two girls, I want to know that if someone breaks into my home, I personally am able to protect my home and my children and myself. There's a lack of education, I believe, that pushes a fear onto people where people think that firearms are bad, but guns don't kill people. People kill people. I also manage a financial institution here locally, and what that means for me is when I'm leaving work, if someone follows me home, I want to know that I'm able to protect myself, that I'm able to protect my children against robbery or home invasion. There's a lot of misconstrued facts out there about school shootings, and some of that needs to be put to rest. The media needs to be responsible and report these facts accurately. There's another issue when it comes to owning firearms and shootings. It's an issue that people often push to the side that doesn't get addressed as I believe it should be addressed, and it's mental health. We need to find resources or create resources for people with mental health issues. The first thing typically you hear after a mass shooting or after a domestic dispute or after something tragic has happened is what was their state of mental health. And so I feel like, pleading insanity is used a good bit when a shooting occurs or there's a tragedy or mom shot dad or something has happened, and mental health, it always goes back to mental health. So Fred Osher stated in an article recently, in 2016 actually, that too many people don't have health insurance. Funding for mental health, the budget cuts have just been cut back so far that there's not enough resources, and that there are too few providers. I actually witnessed this myself back in October of 2017 when my 13-year-old daughter needed inpatient care. We were transferred from 3 facilities. Her bed was given up at the first facility 5 times before I saw another resource for her. At the hospital we stayed at, she actually was given a bed 4 times at 3 different facilities, and before they could get the commitment to those facilities, those beds were given to other patients as well. So there's a lack of resources there for people who need help. There's also a stigma not only associated with owning a firearm, but that comes with mental health. The stigma is so strong that people who need mental health assistance are not seeking that help simply because they don't want people to see them with this dark shadow over their head. I have a mental health illness. It needs to be something that's addressed, just like cancer, just like influenza. It's an issue, but it can be medicated and it can be helped, and there is an issue. There's a way to fix that, whether it be medication or therapy or counseling. But currently, there's just not enough resources for people to seek that out. What can we do? So there's a correlation between, I believe, mental health and gun ownership and a lack of education. Excuse me. Using education on firearms not only alleviates some of the fear that comes from people who have never needed a firearm to protect themselves, but it also gives us a better standard of knowing who owns a firearm. While I am against banning firearms, I am not against education. So, in my personal opinion, I believe in order to prevent some of these tragedies, there's multiple things that we can do. The first thing I believe we should do is require a safety class and an education class prior to obtaining a permit to carry a firearm. What that would do would allow us to give credit hours to people who want to purchase a firearm or own a firearm, so that they would have some education on how to clean it, how to keep it safe, how to properly handle it, how to store it, how to use the safety, and things of that nature to prevent these firearms from getting in the wrong hands and then being led to school shootings, robberies, things of that nature. We hear all the time how the gun was stolen if they rob a store or rob someone. So requiring a permit to purchase a weapon, but also requiring some pre-education to get that permit, and then making sure that those people have the resources they need to be able to get a firearm. Banning firearms is not the solution. Mental health has got to be a priority, and education and changing the purchasing requirements will alleviate a lot of the fears. I've seen firsthand how quickly mental health can go from very, very good to very, very bad in such a short period of time. I'm so very aware of the limited resources out there for people seeking mental health. And I believe the insurance company should be forced to pay it 100% when it's a mental health issue. And I also believe that, there should be a percentage of tax dollars allocated to resources for people. We've got to be able to protect ourselves without the fear of tragedy from the misuse of firearms. So while I do not think that banning firearms is the solution, I do agree that there are some things we can do to alleviate the problem. Thank you for listening.